Welcome to When Your Team Just Knows. Craft your cultural blueprint for growth with the core values revealer. Let's start with the real questions that are keeping you up at night. Not only the ones we say out loud in meetings, but the quiet ones haunt us and keep us from going to sleep. Why is my business not growing and scaling the way that I would like? What if my team isn't really clear about what matters most and what they can be doing every day to help move the company forward? And what if I scale the company, but it loses what makes it special as we grow? If you are wrestling with these questions or have pondered these kinds of worries, this masterclass is designed just for you. We're going to unlock a specific growth tool that brings clarity to chaos. Today, you will have the opportunity to create core values for your business, not just core values that are nice to have, but core values that provide a path for you to succeed as a business. So core values aren't nice to have. They're an invisible architecture of a company that scale with you and for you. It creates a path for you to scale with soul. It serves your customer deeply and aligns a team into its most brilliant form. When defined and used well, core values feed growth, attract and align talent, and create a company that becomes beloved inside and out. So today we'll show you exactly how to find your company's core values. Core values. What are core values? How you succeed. Core values explain and answer the question, how? How am I going to behave? How am I going to make decisions? Core values are the essential, non-negotiable beliefs guiding daily behavior within a company. Today, we're going to use the core values revealer, which you can download right now at a forceforgood.biz/weekly-tool. It will be available through April 20th for free. So today we're going to use the tool to help you write your core values and identify two ways, a high leverage habit and a high potency action that will help you implement your core values right away. All right. So why do you need core values? Number one, core values give you power. They help you align your team so that everybody knows what to do, knows how to make decisions, and it helps reduce founder dependence because everybody starts to think and act in the same way, and you all start to go in one direction. It also attracts the right people. So people will resonate with your core values, your customers, as well as your team. Your values magnetize those who best fit your company and will keep those out that don't. It will also become how you make decisions faster, more efficiently. It will help you see whether a partner is a good fit, whether investment is a good fit, whether a marketing path is a good fit, because it will either resonate with your values or it will not. It will also give you the power to scale your culture. Companies oftentimes think they have core values because they've written them down, but if they aren't actively using them and creating narrative around them, and they're not part of what people are thinking about every day, then it's not going to give you the wind at your back that a core value can give you. So when you clear core values, which help you design today, and you implement it through high leverage habits and through those incredibly powerful actions, you'll start to create a culture that thrives as you grow. This will give you the ability to not have to be in every room to make every decision as the founder or leader. It gives you the freedom because the people in the room know what to focus on because you have core values that you can hold in your heart and mind and follow. So let's look at some examples. Bar 3, fitness, MIDI health, and solstice. Here you're going to have the core purpose, which is the why of a company. Then you're going to have the vision, which is where you are going and what it will look like over 100 years, the 100-year vision to have your core purpose alive and well and serving your client customers. Then you ask the question, how? How am I going to fulfill the core purpose? How am I going to create this vision? The answer to that question is your core values. So in the case of bar 3, the core purpose is to empower individuals to feel strong in body and mind. That is the core purpose. That's what they're helping every single person that they serve do. And their vision is to redefine what success in fitness means by promoting body positivity, inclusivity, and personal empowerment. So they ask themselves then, what is it that we need to foster in terms of beliefs? What do we need to make sure everybody is really dug into as a culture? What do we make sure everyone is focused on? And they came up with 3 things: body positivity, inclusivity, and adaptability. You see how that is going to help them empower individuals to feel strong in body and mind? You see how that's going to help them redefine what success in fitness means? All right. So now the next example is MIDI Health, a women's health company. This company was founded by Joanna Strober. And the core purpose of MIDI Health is to provide comprehensive expert care for women navigating midlife hormonal changes. Over 100 years in their vision is to become the leading virtual care clinic addressing the unique health needs of women in midlife and beyond. So when you start to think about what their purpose is, how are they going to provide comprehensive expert care for these women, and how are they going to become the leading virtual care clinic? Well, they're going to do that fostering empathy, expertise, and accessibility. So those are the 3. That is how they're going to deliver their core purpose. Next is Solstice, a green tech company co-founded by Steph Spears and Sandhya Murali. And the core purpose of Solstice is to democratize access to clean energy. Their vision is a world where every household can participate and benefit from renewable energy. Then you ask yourself the question, as I'm sure Steph and Sandhya did, how are we going to create this purpose every day? And how are we going to live this vision every day? They decided that what they needed everybody in the company to stay focused on is equity, sustainability, and community empowerment. So you see that? You say, how? You say, why does my company exist? That's a purpose. Where are we going? That's vision. And how we get there is through core values. So start to think for yourself, where is your core purpose? What is your vision? And what are your core values? All right. And then next, where does this fit in the big engine of growth? The force market system is a flywheel for growth. And the business flywheel is captured on the Force for Good 4-page road plan. So you can see it right here. It's this 4 pages. And on the first page at the top is the section dedicated to knowing your purpose. For a company to grow, you need to know your purpose. You need to know who you serve, and you need to know your impact plan. And so the first section of knowing your purpose is at the top of the first page, which you can download at forceforgood.com/weekly-tool. And you'll see the 4 values is in that first section that talks about purpose. So you have your inception story, your core purpose, your 100-year vision, and your 10-year impact goal. And then you answer the question, how? How am I going to live up to the story? How am I going to live up to the purpose, create the vision, and manifest the 10-year impact goal? And the core values become the answer as to how. So That's what we're going to focus on today. Then you're going to drop your core values right here in your 4-page growth plan. You have it already created that when you go to aforceforgood.biz/weekly-tool. You can download right on that page the 4-page growth plan. You can create a draft. There's a mini masterclass that will show you how to create an initial plan and first draft. And then you can start going in every week as we go through each of these different master classes. You'll be able to fill in and iterate on each of the different buckets on the 4-page plan. So that's what we're going to do. Find out the question that goes on this page of the 4-page plan. And let's go right then to your core values revealer. So the tool that we are focused on in this masterclass is called the core values revealer. We're going to unlock core beliefs, establish core values, test the 5 core value tenets, and then choose your 3 to 5 core values. So the first thing we're going to do is unlock core beliefs. And the way we do that within the core values revealer is to identify key words. These are key words that help you reflect on the quality, priorities, beliefs, convictions of your company. What are those things you would like to cultivate within your company? This doesn't tend to be just ideal, nice things people should be in the world. This is the list of things most essential for your success, defined by your core purpose and vision. So what qualities will everyone need to bring to work every day to achieve our purpose, vision, and impact goal? What are those qualities and convictions? On this page, you'll see a big list of keywords, words like accountability, curiosity, determination, agility, attention to detail, continuous improvement, craftsmanship, creativity, dependability, emotional intelligence, evolving, excellence, family-oriented, friendliness, fun, generosity, humility, individuality, loyalty, meritocracy, open-mindedness, positivity, reliability, self-awareness, self-improvement, sustainability, stewardship, tough, trust, truth, vulnerability, unstoppability. So start to identify the words that feel most connected to your culture and to your success. What words are going to drive your vision? What words are going to create the possibility of your impact goal? So that's where we begin. I invite you, as you find words, let's say you say, oh yeah, caring is a really important word in our culture. Take that word caring, hop over to Chat or Perplexity or Pi or whatever AI tool you like, and ask it for a list of 20 other words that are synonyms, and see if there's a word that's even more specific, or maybe a phrase. And so you want to find a laundry list of words and then start to decide which ones most closely reflect what it is that you need to bring to the day every day. So what are the qualities and convictions to bring to work with you as you get off to work every day to create the impact, the scale, and the profitability your company needs to grow? The next step is to select the 5 to 8 keywords that most reflect what your recipe for success is. So I like to say between humor and humility, which is most essential? If I can only have one, which one do I have to? You do that until you come up with a list of 5 to 8. And then what you do is go ahead and write down 5 to 8. Just use this opportunity to do your first draft. And then ask yourself, what are the traits or the qualities that will not fit at a Lune. We take care of medically fragile kids and families. People who are uncaring, not very empathetic, unaware of other and their need, these would not be great characteristics or traits. So people who are inflexible, the people going into people's homes, right, and not being flexible with what the family needs, that would be an inflexible person. An unaware person would not fit in our values. So we want to provide remarkable care. So somebody who is uncaring would not provide that. What are the qualities or traits that would not fit in your organization? What would work against your core purpose, vision, and long-term impact goal? Next, what are the types of behaviors and attitudes that support the work of your company? So I like to think about the type of work. It's almost like three different pillars. I like to have three core values, even though some will choose to have four and maybe even five. But when you have three, you can remember them, right? And it's easy to remember three. It's hard to remember four. It's really, really hard. Five, forget it. So if you have three, it's almost like there are three different spokes coming up that serve a different purpose. What are those three types of behaviors or attitudes that your company would need? I'm just going to go back for a second and show you an example. I loved this example of MIDI. Their core purpose is to provide comprehensive expert care for women, and their vision is to become the leading virtual care clinic. So they need empathy because they're dealing with women going through hormonal changes. They need expertise, right? Because they've got to become the best and the leading. So they have to have this expertise in both hormonal changes, what women's needs are, and there's hasn't been as much research done on women. They also have to have expertise in the technology, right? They chose accessibility. They needed to make sure that they were figuring out how to make it accessible because they didn't want to become the most profitable virtual care clinic addressing unique needs of women. They wanted to be the leading. So they wanted to be the one that most people could have access to. So they needed to be empathetic. They needed to have deep expertise in midlife hormonal changes and beyond for women. And they needed to have that accessibility. It had to be accessible to more than just the elite few, for example. So these are three very different core values. Notice how they're not the same thing repeated three times. It's three separate, very distinct, like legs on a three-legged stool. What are those types of behaviors and attitudes that support the work environment of your company? And then which behaviors and attitudes would not be desired? Think about the specific behaviors, right? For some companies, being a super hardcore individual performer, like you could be working as a coder and be a super strong individual performer, and that would be fine. But maybe in a company where everybody's working together on teams or a service environment, that kind of robust individuality would be a problem. Competitiveness, for example, might also not work in your environment. Or maybe it does. Maybe that's what creates the special sauce in your company. So what would be hard to have in your environment? Which behaviors would be annoying or troubling? And which would block or inhibit the kind of work your company aims to perform? So just take a moment and identify some attitudes and behaviors that would not be desired, because that's going to help spring forth, oh, these are the things that are really important. All right, so next page, still unlocking core beliefs. What are the core beliefs of your company? What do you stand for? What is important to you? What values, traits, qualities, behaviors, and beliefs will lead to the impact you desire? Things like courage, maybe it's things like adaptability, or maybe it's things like innovation. What will bring that? Caring. What values, traits, qualities, behaviors, and beliefs will lead to sustainable profitability? So that could be something completely different. We've been thinking about how to reach more people at the scale you want, or how you reach more impact, or how you behave in a particular way that's going to be likable to your customers or other team members. But now we're asking, what's going to create profit? What's going to create profit? Maybe that has to do with efficiency, quality, or maybe it has to do with quick decision making or something like that. So look for those things that's going to help you be unselfishness, generosity, having good boundaries, right? So what are those things? So go ahead and write down all the things. This first section is helping you percolate and unlock those core beliefs. And second part here is where you're actually going to take a swing at it and establish your core values. So go ahead right now and write down 3 to 5 core values. Brainstorm from your list. Look at what you already wrote down. They could be phrases, single sentences, or words organized into a bulleted list. Go ahead and write 3 to 5 down. Remember, this is your first draft. And if you already have a draft of core values, that's fine. You can use the same ones, or maybe you could use ChatGPT to help you find more specific language. So go ahead and make your draft. And if you feel like you need to pause for 10 minutes, put on a timer and come back, but don't do more than 10 minutes, because right now we're just trying to get a draft. Great. So now that you've got your first 3 to 5 drafted, you're going to continue to home in on those actual values by testing it, testing each value against these 5 tests. Okay. First of all, these core values, do they answer the question, how? Do they help you see how you're going to reach your customers, how you're going to deliver your core purpose, how you're going to grow your company, how you're going to create impact, how it's going to help you become profitable? You see connection for all those things. So does it really answer the question? Yes. In order for us to climb the mountain we've chosen, this is essential. Number 2, is it 100% required? We have to use this. We need this. It's a value, a belief, a conviction that is absolutely necessary to build this company. This is not a nice to have. It's not on the laundry list of nice things to put on a performance appraisal. This is a requirement. Without this value, this company will not be successful. Is it required? If it's not really required, then you probably have another word somewhere. Number 3, does your customer need you to have it? Your customer needs you to be this. Your customer needs you to be this quality. So it's essential to the way you serve customers, create products, the way you deliver and innovate your services, the way you interact with each other. It's essential. It matters. It's important to your customer. It's important to the longevity of the services of your customer. So this is not just a table stake or behavior or concept, but it's critical to the specific needs of your customer. And you can almost say, would this be needed for all customers? If it is, it's probably not really dedicated to your customer. All right. Number 4, long-term commitment. Once you pick your core values, generally don't change them. They become an ongoing anchored. It becomes a rudder in your company. It helps you go in a particular direction. Your company might change its core values every 50 years. In an ideal world, you wouldn't change core values. So this is a value you would stick with for 100 years. It's not a value, something that you need, a conviction you need right now. It's not just something you need in startup phase or growth phase, or if you're overcoming some kind of a big challenge in the world, political phase or pandemic. It's a quality you need all the time. And at that set, it's important to say it would be useful when we're growing, reevaluating when the business is going down, going up, and when the industry is disrupting. It would be useful during all of those times, not just today. This tenet, is it necessary no matter what, means would you use this core value and stick with it even if it became unprofitable or unpopular? So we see this even right now. Diversity, equity, and inclusion has become not so popular in the mainstream. And yet many companies are still very committed to it. And so it's something like that, where is it something you're going to stick to no matter what? Are you willing to uphold this value even if it becomes difficult to maintain? It encourages you to do the right thing. It's going to help you make decisions on where to invest your dollars, how much quality is enough quality, how much profit is enough profit. Is it a value that will help you make those decisions? And so together, they should stick as three separate ideas and in some ways challenge each other, right? So let's go back for a second. We're going to go back for these other core values. We'll look at body positivity, inclusivity, and adaptability. Like these are three different things, right? Body positivity, inclusivity, and adaptability. In some cases, you're going to need adaptability, and yet you want to be inclusive. Those two might compete at times, and that's good because it's going to help you figure out what's most important. And then there's also body positivity. You're always going to be body positive, even when you're being inclusive and adapt. So do you see how they're all going to be a little different? You have equity, sustainability, and community empowerment for Solstice, right? These are different things. Equity is equity, sustainability is over a long term, and then be able to empower communities. These are three separate concepts. Look to see that each of your chosen core values are capturing the five tenets and that they're also unique. Now is the moment. Go ahead and choose your core values. You've brainstormed, you've wordsmithed, you've captured them, and go ahead and write down your core values right here on the core values reviewer. Again, 3 is best, 4 is okay, 5 is acceptable. You'll see as we go forward, master classes and other tools, that when you start to really invest your energy and use each of these core values, each of them requires energy and attention. Each of them requires nurturance. And you want to put those core values into every aspect of your business, from your marketing and sales to finance, to your billing, to your customer service, to your innovation, everything. And so less is more. Less is powerful. And I would say that it's a great leader that can make those kinds of big decisions and know what's important and not subscribe to the idea that everything is important. And remember that when you're choosing these things, it's not that you're saying, no, these are the things like integrity or honesty. They're important to you, but maybe they're not the top 3, or maybe they're a subset of your top 3, right? So you want to come up with those top 3. If you absolutely have to do 4, do 4. And if you cannot help yourself and you're really going to do 5, then go ahead and do 5. I would encourage you, if you have 5, to try to minimize it down to 4 over time, then down to 3, because you will be more powerful with 3. I started out at Illume with 6, and it was way too much. Nobody in the company, including me, could remember them all. So how could we possibly invite them? Over time, it really became clear that we had 3. And it'll be the 3 that you gravitate towards the most. It will be the 3 that you talk about the most. It'll be the 3 that give people the most conviction, understanding, bravery, conscience, thing that's going to help you move towards your vision. All right. Once you've got these, and now I've talked long enough so that hopefully you've been able to have the space to percolate and write down your 3 core values. Then you're going to take them and put them on your 4-page plan. Before we do that, I'll just take a moment right now. Breathe into your heart. Because what we did just now was a psychic exercise in connecting to your soul and connecting to your greatness, connecting to the parts of you that you don't always take time to do. It's not an email, a phone call, spreadsheet. It's listening from within. Contemplate what really matters. Acknowledge for a moment what you just did in this short time. By defining your core values, you have created more clarity, which gives you speed. You'll notice that clarity as you start to use these core values in your business, use those words in your meeting, decisions become easier because now you know what's important. The second thing is you're going to start to discover a cultural overhaul. So the Force for Good system is an elevated model for leading a high impact, high growth company. Core values are actually going to elevate your company. Excuse me. So it's going to give you a cultural overhaul and elevation as you start to use these core values. Core values spark a cultural shift. Once you start to say to people, tell me about remarkable care. Oh, remarkable care was the core value at Illume. We would talk about remarkable care. Another core value that we talked about all the time was meeting unspoken needs. All right. Unspoken needs for our patients who mostly were nonverbal was very important. But it's also very important to nurses who are out in the field and you couldn't always hear what they had to say because they were not in the same space. So what are the unspoken needs of our team? And oftentimes when you're dealing with a team that has to move quickly because there's healthcare is always being disrupted by new challenges, new regulations, certainly we needed to listen to each other. What does everybody need? What does everybody's unspoken wants and needs? So when you start to give language like unspoken wants and needs and remarkable care to the everyday dialogue, it elevates your whole culture and everybody starts to behave in a different and elevated, celebrated way. The other thing that happens here, and I can't express how important this is, you cannot have a company that exists without you if you have to make every decision and if you're the one that's holding culture. If the culture is spread out to the whole company, then it's not incumbent on you. You get to become less the center. The values and the purpose can become the center of the company. The vision, the values, the purpose becomes the center. You're no longer the center of everything. So you can step back and focus on other things. You don't have to feel like you're in charge of making all those cultural decisions and overseeing everything. Instead, the whole team becomes part of that culture. Right people, right seats. As you develop core values, you'll start to see who's a right fit for the company and where they're sitting. When you have people doing their jobs and you're in the right seat for them, things flow. If they don't, things get bottlenecked. So it'll help you make those decisions. It'll help you also guide people on what you need from them. You'll have specific language within your core values. One of the things that core values have done for me is it shapes you. It shapes you, the leader. So at A Force for Good, our core values are be wise, be transformative, and be of highest and best use. And that is what shaped me every day as a leader, right? So in order for me to help women build high growth organizations, you need to be wise. You need to listen to your values within every day. You need to be transformative. You need to think about how you can help teams of people create change, create possibility, create growth. And then how do I decide every day to be of highest and best use? What do I do with my time every day? How do I impact my organization in the best way? Where do I step back and let somebody else lead? So those are how I use those core values within a force for good. If you, as well as you being able to take those values to shape your team. So go ahead now and write down on your 4-page growth plan, your core values. Now we're going to talk about how to start to move these core values into action. We like to talk about habits and actions, two different things. High leverage habits are those regular practices that you engage in, intentional practices that are tightly aligned with your desired results. So in this case, they're your values. You want to say, what habit would make sure that I personally and my team are aligned and living these values? That's really a good question. And more so, what high leverage habit would almost guarantee that every day these values would be exemplified, actualized? Whatever you do every day is who you are. These are habits, right? Most of your day is a big series of habits. And so when you can create a virtuous cycle habit that propagates goodness, impact, scale, and profit into your company, it becomes a transformative growth flywheel. What we want to do is be intentional about shaping what we do daily, weekly, monthly. Picking some daily, weekly habits around your core values will drive constant momentum in your company. Think about one new weekly repeatable habit you would like to commit to this week. One thing you could do to implement this week. Maybe it is taking an existing habit and tweaking it, or maybe it's starting a new habit completely. So let's say you do a morning intake, and during that hour, you dedicate your time to the day's most value-aligned tasks, like reaching out to key clients or creating new case studies or making phone calls to partners, whatever it is, reaching out to your team members. So think about your morning impact hour and what would be the way you could embody those 3 core values. And that could be something you do every day. Another idea is to have a team wins roundup. And this is a great practice. It could be weekly or on an email or a Slack channel. So you reinforce the core value. You ask, who can give an example of someone this week that exemplified being wise, exemplified being genuine, exemplified doing the right thing. So like whatever those 3 core values are, you ask for examples, and somebody from the team will give an example. Oh, Judith from customer service, I heard her answer the phone and she went the extra mile and was very empathetic with the person on the other line. So you would ask the team to share their stories. You could do learning lunches. That's another wonderful weekly habit. Every week you could have a learning lunch related to your 3 core values. I recommend you kick it off as the founder or the leader. You do the first one and have people sign up on the team to do the other training. And they could be 10-minute trainings, 5-minute trainings, 30-minute trainings, wherever it is. It could be fun little exercises. But when other people start to take on these core values, they start to embody them in their own way and bring them to your culture in their authentic way. And then it starts to become alive, rich. Thank you Thursdays. So thank you Thursdays is every Thursday. Each leader sends thank you note to a team member highlighting their value. So every week you could send her a different card to different somebody else's whether it's on email or I had a rule with the people who were in my customer support team. We would have them send out 5 a week because they were reaching out to nurses in the field, and we wanted to make sure every nurse felt valued and appreciated. And that became really, really important part of our core value. It actually fit brilliantly with both remarkable care. We wanted to provide remarkable care to our nurses. And we also wanted to make sure we were meeting their unspoken needs. And we know that people have unspoken needs of acknowledgement. So we were constantly catching them doing the right things and then letting them be seen and heard and then acknowledging. So we would all do that. I would have our administrator, COO, financial officer, they would send them out as well. So this idea of thank yous was really a big part of our culture. Another is the core values stand-up. Start weekly meetings with a 5-minute story to share of someone living a core value. This is great to do with your leaders and have them share their stories. Part of another masterclass we do is on shaping stories, your section story and other stories. But the more you share story, the more you connect with the hearts and souls of your team. So start to think about how you could start a ritual, a habit, and storytelling. Morning impact hour, team wins roundup, learning lunch, thank you Thursdays, core value stand up. These are some ideas. You might have others. But right now, select one high leverage habit that you can use to move forward your newly chosen core values. Then identify one high potency action. Habits are things you do over and over again. Actions is a one-time thing, a bold one-time or rare action. A specific action outside your normal habits that creates massive impact, a game changer. High potency actions catalyze breakthroughs. They are the actions that will move the needle for revenue sparks, move the needle for industry shifts. You might be thinking, no, a lot of times they're simple actions. They're coming out of your everyday routines and calling that person that might help you create a partnership that could open a door to 1,000 new customers, for example. They don't always have to be time-consuming actions. Sometimes they're just things you never get around to. Or maybe it's developing a system for something, right? If we had a very clear system to manage and track all of our prospects, then we would do better following up with them. A high potency action would be putting that system in place. So why these matter is because they can catalyze breakthroughs. And you want to make sure you're always doing things to catalyze breakthroughs. So if you're always doing only what is done every day, then you're always only going to see tiny improvements. But if you do things every day that you don't always do, right? If you do one high potency action a week or one high potency action a day, you're going to see massive changes in your results. So what are some actions you could take? Think about this to really embody and move forward your most important goals. It could be publish a manifesto or an op-ed. I wrote an op-ed to help us raise the Medicaid rates. It opened a whole bunch of doors. I ended up getting on television. We ended up having a news conference at the stairs of the Capitol building. We were able to get, at the end of the day, after a series of high potency actions, an increase in Medicaid rates for complex care nursing. One thing we did was write an op. But it could be that you write a bold article, a Jerry Maguire type article or a letter that you send out to your customers or to your team about the company that you're building. You could decide to host an industry summit, right? Convene experts, customers to solve a big problem that's aligned with your purpose. So maybe you're not this week going to host the industry summit, but you couldn't sit down and come up with the idea and a one-page description. Another high potency action would be some kind of a moonshot project that you know would make a really big difference, either in your service, your innovation, your scale, your efficiency. And so maybe you want to launch a pilot or an innovative idea that excites or even scares you. Think about what that would be. And maybe there's a first step you could take. You could do a roundtable discussion with your team to say, hey, I'm thinking about doing, I would love to talk to you about that. You could charter a values day. So you could say, we're going to close the office for a day in service of our renewed core values. As a first step, I put the action for this week. Let's create a team to meet and talk about what we're going to do on that values day, right? Kickoff meeting. A next area of high potency action might be a strategic partnership or even an acquisition. These are big moments where you diverge from the norm and take a step in the direction of your growth, of your impact, of your profitability. You do something that's outside the norm, like catapult yourself to another level. Think about for yourself, what would be a high potency thing you'd like to do? Either one action you could do this week, a phone call, email, a letter, meeting. If it's something big like a moonshot project or an acquisition, when's the first step you could take? Be clear on that. Right. So here we are. So you define your core values. You use the core values revealer. So now you know what it is and you can use it again and again. You can hand it off to members of your team and share it with them if you can do it. You could use it again in a moment where you're launching a project and you're going to create special project values. Now you've also got your core values on your 4-page growth plan. And hopefully by doing that, you're starting to see how those core values are going to help you. Maybe it'll help you fine tune some other part of your 4-page plan. You probably gain some of these insights. We talked about how it's going to help you make decisions, how it's going to help you select team members and put people in the right seat. It's going to help you grow your company more efficiently and faster. You identified a high leverage habit and you planned out a high potency action. So a lot happened. Acknowledge yourself. And I'm just going to invite you to continue the journey. So if you sign up for Force for Good Tool of the Week at forceforgood.biz/weekly tool, you can get access to these weekly tools and masterclasses, and you'll be able to continue to create new ways to improve. You can get a copy of my book at forceforgood.biz/book. You'll be able to get full access to the toolkit. You can also participate in our Growth Accelerator, which is a modular online platform where you have videos, tools, assessments, and you can do it alone or with your team to implement that growth flywheel. Thank you so much for being here today and joining me in making the world better through women-led business. As you go out into the world today, I hope you make the choice to live with your values, purpose, and vision. Let's all go make the world better.